feel like if I told people that this cookie was made out of quinoa and tahini and flax seeds and stuff like that, they'd be like, that sounds a little too healthy for me. But if I just gave them a bite of this cookie, they'd be like, whoa, this tastes so good. What's it made out of? Hey guys, this is Heather from healthyeatingstartshere.com. All right, today we're gonna make some quinoa cookies, which I'm really excited about, if you can maybe tell. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, because earlier this week I was talking about the difference between whole versus processed versus refined foods, as I go through, I'm gonna talk about what each one is. Okay, so with that, we're gonna get started. First thing I'm gonna put in my bowl is a banana. As whole a food as you can get. The only thing I'm doing to it is taking the peel off. And then, if you'll remember, the definition of whole foods was something that hasn't been changed from its original form. So what I'm going to do is actually break it up into my bowl, and I'm going to process it myself. Definition of processing being changing the form, because I'm going to mash this banana. So mashing it makes it incorporate into the cookies and is going to give some moisture as well as some sweetness. So it can take the place of both some of the sugar or sweetener in my recipe plus some of the oil. All right, and once you've got your banana mashed up, then what you're going to add to the bowl is some cooked quinoa. So cook this in advance. You can cook enough to make dinner as well if you want to save some time. I like making cookies with whole grains that are cooked because I find it makes a really nice texture for one, but it also makes the cookie less dense. So if you think of flour being the whole grain ground up dry, and then versus something like quinoa where it's cooked with water and it absorbs water and expands, very different density. Okay, so to this, we're also going to add some tahini, which is ground up sesame seed paste. So this is an ingredient that is processed because the form has been changed, but it's not refined. Nothing's been taken away from the sesame seeds. Next thing I'm going to add is some sugar, which I'm using date sugar. I'm not sure if you can see how crystallized, or how not crystallized, sorry, this is. It looks more like sandy texture than a refined sugar, so that's an unrefined version. It is processed because it's changed its form. And then another ingredient that is somewhat processed, but I've processed myself, is some ground flax. So flax seeds taken from their whole version and ground up. Okay, next up we're going to have some baking soda and baking powder and some cinnamon, which you can do to your taste. I like a lot of spice, so I'm going to put 2 teaspoons in here, but feel free to only do 1 if that's your thing. Cinnamon and other spices like nutmeg, which we're also going to put in here, are processed but not refined. They are dried and then ground up. Oh, I don't want half, I want a quarter. Nutmeg is pretty powerful. And dried spices, although they're dried, have a ton of nutrients, so go nuts with the spices. Love them. And then I've got some vanilla extract, which would technically be considered refined because it is an extract of a vanilla bean, so most of the bean has been taken away. And I'm going to add some molasses, which is another ingredient that would be refined because it's not the whole sugarcane, but it actually takes the nutritional part of the sugarcane that has the iron and the B vitamins and leaves behind a lot of the just simple sugars. And I'm just going to add a sprinkle of sea salt and then stir it together and see where I'm at. Wasn't sure if I would need to add any more moisture or flour to these. All right, so it's looking pretty good, but it's looking a little moist. So what I'm going to do is make some flour out of some rolled oats. This is a trick that I use when I don't have flour on hand, or if I want a quick gluten-free flour just to thicken things. And so rolled oats are processed already because they've been changed into a flake and they've been steamed. And then I am going to put them into my coffee grinder, just like I did with the flax, and grind them up. See how nice that comes out? I actually have some flour in the cupboard, but I wanted to show you guys that trick because it's pretty cool, right? So just stir that into your cookie mix. All right, and then once you get, excuse me, that all mixed in, what I like to do is give my batter a taste because otherwise I don't know what it tastes like. And I don't want to wait until it comes out of the oven and then have it be bad and then have to throw out cookies. So I like to taste it while I'm making it, and I can make changes if I need to. For instance, spices aren't coming through enough for me, so what I'm going to do, add more cinnamon, more nutmeg, some cloves, some allspice, some ginger, and more molasses, and make them more gingerbread style. All right, taste number 2. Much better. Okay, last ingredient I'm going to add, some dried cranberries. Dried fruit, another processed ingredient that is unrefined unless it has some refined oil or sugar on it, which they sometimes do in order to preserve it or make it tastier. Or sometimes they add flavors, like I know craisins often come in like cherry flavor or something like that. That's gonna have added flavor, and I don't know what kind of flavoring they use, but if you look at the ingredients, you should be able to see if it's something refined or not. All right, there they are, just out of the oven. They smell awesome. The smell of spices is filling my kitchen right now. It's amazing, and I cannot wait to taste these. One of my favorite things about making cookies out of cooked quinoa or other cooked grains is the texture. It's so amazing. It's a little bit crunchy and crumbly and delicious. And they're very lightly sweet, really nice spices. And then the dried cranberries take the sweetness level up a little bit. So if you like your cookies sweeter, you can feel free to add a little bit more unrefined sugar to the recipe. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you again next week with more nutrition info and a recipe. Okay, see you guys.